My husband's parents cut us out of family photos, then replaced us with my brother-in-law's new girlfriend in the frames at their house. So I did this when they demanded we host Thanksgiving. Since we have the nicest house, throwaway for obvious reasons. Long-time lurker, first-time poster. I'm honestly not even sure where to begin with this, but I feel like I'm losing my mind a little bit and need some outside perspective. I, female, 34, have been married to my husband Mitchell, male 36, for 7 years now. We met in grad school and honestly struggled financially for years before things started to get better. Like, we lived in this tiny one-bedroom apartment where the fridge door couldn't even open all the way because it would hit the counter, and the landlord wouldn't fix anything, but that's a whole other story. We had to do this weird shuffle dance just to get food out, which became our inside joke but was actually super annoying every single day for 3 years. Anyway, after years of saving and both of us finally getting decent jobs, we were able to buy our dream home about 18 months ago. It's nothing fancy, just a nice 4-bedroom in a good neighborhood with a yard that's actually visible. So the thing is, Mitchell's parents, Martha and Richard, both 64, have always been, not great to me. I mean, they're not openly hostile or anything, but Martha especially has this way of making these little comments about everything I do. My clothes are either too casual or trying too hard. My cooking is different, not in a good way. She once asked if my parents even went to college when I mentioned growing up in a middle-class neighborhood. They did, but why does that even matter? Meanwhile, Mitchell's younger brother Kevin, male, 33, can literally do no wrong in their eyes. This guy has had like 8 different jobs in the past 5 years, moved back home twice, and still gets treated like he's God's gift to the world. Martha is constantly making excuses for him. Kevin just hasn't found his passion yet, or Kevin's too creative for conventional employment. The latest development is that Kevin started dating this girl Amy, female, 26, about 3 months ago. Her family apparently knows some local politicians and has money, which Martha loves to bring up. From the first time Martha met her, Amy was instantly accepted into the family. Martha keeps saying things like, "Amy is such a lovely girl," and "Amy has such wonderful manners," while looking pointedly at me. So we do these monthly family dinners at Martha and Richard's house, and we had one about 2 weeks ago. I noticed something weird. I was walking around looking at all the family photos they have everywhere. Martha is obsessed with family photos, and I suddenly realized every single picture of me and Mitchell was gone. At first I thought maybe I was imagining things, but then I started really looking. There was this big family vacation photo from 3 years ago that used to show all of us at the beach, but now it was clearly cropped to just show Kevin and his parents. Our wedding portrait that had been on the mantle for years was replaced with a photo of Kevin and Amy at some charity gala they went to after dating for 3 months. Even our Christmas card photo was removed from the refrigerator where they keep all the family holiday cards. I freaked out internally and pulled Mitchell into the guest bathroom to talk about it. I asked if he noticed all our photos were gone and pointed to where our wedding photo used to be. Mitchell looked around and said maybe his mom moved it for cleaning or something. I told him it wasn't just that one. All of our photos were gone, everywhere in the house. I could see he was hurt, but he just sort of sighed and said his parents have always favored Kevin, and it's not worth causing a scene over some photos. When I asked if we should say something, he said we should just drop it because he didn't want to embarrass himself. He squeezed my hand and thanked me for understanding, and I just forced a smile and went back to dinner, pretending everything was fine. I mean, I'm totally fine with how his parents treat me. Okay, that's a lie. I'm not fine with it at all. But seeing them literally erase us from family history while keeping every single photo of Kevin, including ones where he looks terrible or is with ex-girlfriends they supposedly hated, was just too much. But here's where it gets even better. Yesterday, Martha called Mitchell, and I heard his side of a very short conversation. After he hung up, he told me his mom told him that since we have the nicest house in the family now, we'll be hosting Thanksgiving this year. 22 people, with no actual question involved. Then she told him the entire menu, insisting I make all her traditional recipes because everyone expects them. No offer to help cook, clean, or contribute financially to feeding 22 people. And Mitchell just agreed, without even asking me. I know this is what he does with his family. He just says yes to avoid conflict. but this is our house that we paid for after years of struggling, and now I'm supposed to host people who literally removed me from their family photos. I'm so conflicted. Part of me wants to put my foot down and refuse to host Thanksgiving, or at least insist on a potluck situation, and maybe even confront them about the photo thing. But another part of me doesn't want to cause a rift in Mitchell's family. He loves his parents despite how they treat him and me, and I don't want to make him choose. I don't know what to do. I think I'm too close to the situation to see it clearly. Am I overreacting about the photos? Is it wrong to not want to host Thanksgiving for people who treat us this way? Edit. Some people are asking if Martha and Richard have always been this way. Yes, from day one. When Mitchell first introduced me to them, Martha looked me up and down and said, "Oh, I thought you said she was in your PhD program." I was, but apparently I didn't look smart enough. At our wedding, she wore an off-white dress, not quite white, but close enough that several people commented. She has accidentally called me by Mitchell's ex's name at least 4 times. Edit 2. To answer the question about why Mitchell puts up with this, he's always been the peacekeeper in his family. His dad has a pretty explosive temper, though I've only seen glimpses of it, and Mitchell learned early on that keeping the peace was easier than standing up for himself. I've tried to encourage him to set boundaries, but it's hard to unlearn decades of family dynamics. And no, we don't have kids yet. We're waiting until we're more financially stable. But the thought of how Martha would treat our future children compared to Kevin's kids keeps me up at night sometimes. Edit 3. Wow, this blew up more than I expected. To clarify about the house situation, we bought it ourselves with no help from either of our families. Martha has made several comments about how lucky we are to have such a nice house. We're not lucky. We worked our asses off and saved for years. Kevin still rents a luxury apartment that I'm pretty sure his parents helped pay for, which is why Martha thinks our house is the nicest in the family. She doesn't count Kevin's place as his own. Now for the first update. First of all, wow. I honestly didn't expect so many responses to my last post. Thank you to everyone who commented with advice and support. It really helped me feel less crazy about this whole situation. I'm typing this on my phone, so sorry for any formatting issues. So after reading all your comments, I finally worked up the courage to have a serious conversation with Mitchell about the photo situation and this ridiculous Thanksgiving demand. I actually had been taking pictures of Martha and Richard's house during our visits for the past couple years. Not in a creepy way, just casual family stuff. And I went through my phone and found photos from previous visits where you could clearly see our wedding portrait on the mantle, the beach vacation photo with all of us, etc. Then I showed Mitchell these side by side with the new photos I took at the recent dinner where everything was gone or cropped. When I first showed him, he got defensive about his parents. He suggested they might just be making room for new photos and didn't mean anything by it. I was frustrated because there's plenty of wall space, and they kept photos of Kevin with ex-girlfriends they supposedly hated, but removed our wedding photo. But then I realized this is what Mitchell has been doing his whole life, making excuses for how his parents treat him. Side note that I totally forgot to mention in my last post, when we visited their house last year, I noticed Mitchell's childhood bedroom had been completely converted into a home gym months after he left for college. Meanwhile, Kevin's room is untouched from high school, even though he's moved out and back in like 4 times. It still has his high school football trophies and everything. Mitchell just shrugged it off when I mentioned it, but I could tell it hurt him. Oh, and another thing. Martha accidentally threw away Mitchell's academic awards during a cleaning spree a few years ago, including his National Merit Certificate and some writing awards. But somehow Kevin's participation trophies from Little League are displayed prominently in the living room. Like, the kid got a trophy for showing up, and it's treated like an Olympic gold medal. Anyway, after looking at the photos side by side, Mitchell finally admitted the situation was not okay. He got really quiet, and then told me that he's always avoided conflict with his parents because their love has always seemed conditional. He said they only really showed affection or pride when he was achieving something or doing exactly what they wanted. At first I got upset because I thought he didn't care enough about my feelings to stand up to them. But then I realized this was about much deeper family stuff that's been going on way longer than I've been around. It's not that he doesn't care about me, it's that he's literally been trained his whole life to just accept however they treat him. I understand Martha being excited about Kevin's new relationship with Amy. New relationships are exciting, And Amy seems nice enough the one time I met her, even though she talked about her family's political connections a lot. But erasing our 7-year marriage from family history, while keeping random photos of Kevin's high school girlfriend who cheated on him, it makes absolutely no sense. So we decided to go talk to them together. Mitchell actually suggested it, which surprised me. We went over to their house last weekend, and it went about as well as you'd expect. Mitchell started calmly and asked why all the photos of us had been removed. Martha laughed and said we were being dramatic, and they were just making room for new photos. I pointed to several empty spots on the wall, and the newly added photos of Kevin and Amy, who've been dating for like 3 months, just a reminder. Richard sighed like we were the problem and said we were making a big deal out of nothing. Mitchell showed them where our wedding portrait used to be on the mantle, which now had a photo of Kevin and Amy at some charity gala. Martha said they were just excited about Kevin's relationship with Amy. So I asked if they weren't excited about our 7-year marriage. Martha pursed her lips and told me I've never quite fit their family's standards. I was shocked. Richard jumped in and said we were being oversensitive as usual. Mitchell's face turned completely red, but he somehow kept it together. I asked if this affected their Thanksgiving expectations, and Martha said it was completely unrelated. Mitchell was quiet on the way home. Then he told me something he'd never fully explained before. His parents have never accepted my ordinary middle-class background. They've always expected him to marry someone from their social circle, which is ridiculous because they're not even that wealthy. They just think they are. He said they've treated every girlfriend who didn't meet their standards poorly, and they seem to be waiting for him to divorce me after 7 years of marriage because I'm not good enough for their precious family. I was furious, but also relieved, because at least it wasn't just me imagining things all these years. After talking for literally hours that night, we decided we're absolutely not hosting Thanksgiving for people who don't respect our marriage enough to even include us in family photos. Instead, we're going to host a Friendsgiving with people who actually value us both. Mitchell called his mom the next morning and told her we had made other plans for Thanksgiving and would not be hosting. The response was intense. The barrage of texts and calls from Richard, Martha, and Kevin was insane. Kevin called Mitchell multiple times in one day, accusing him of being selfish and ruining the family. By the way, Kevin is the same person who borrowed our car for a weekend last year and returned it with an empty tank and these weird stains on the back seat that he never acknowledged, even though we kept hinting about it. But sure, we're the selfish ones. The most surprising thing that came out of all this is that Mitchell's aunt Claire, Martha's sister, actually reached out to us. She said she saw Martha's Facebook post about some people being too selfish to honor family traditions, which was obviously about us, and wanted to check in. Turns out this isn't the first time Martha and Richard have done this to family members who don't meet their expectations. Apparently, they did something similar to Martha's brother when he married a woman they didn't approve of. Claire actually asked if she could come to our Friendsgiving instead of going to Martha and Richard's. Of course, we said yes. So now we're planning our alternative Thanksgiving celebration and trying to set some actual boundaries with Mitchell's family. I'm really proud of Mitchell for standing up to them, but I'm worried about the long-term consequences for his relationship with his parents. They're already guilt-tripping him constantly, and I don't want to be the reason he loses his family, even if they are terrible. Edit. To answer the questions about whether we've gone no contact, not exactly. Mitchell is still responding to some texts from his dad, but ignoring the guilt-trippy ones from his mom. He says he's not ready to completely cut them off, which I understand. This is all new territory for him after years of just giving in to whatever they wanted. Edit 2. Several people asked about Kevin's new girlfriend Amy and whether she knows about all this drama. As far as we know, she doesn't. Mitchell thinks Kevin has probably painted us as the villains, but we have mutual friends who know Amy, so I'm sure she'll hear our side eventually. I kind of feel bad for her getting pulled into this mess so early in their relationship. Edit 3. For those asking if Mitchell's parents contribute financially to our lives in any way, absolutely not. We've been completely independent since grad school. We bought our house ourselves. We pay all our own bills. They've never given us money for anything, which makes their entitlement to our home and time even more infuriating. Edit 4. Thanks for the awards and kind messages. To those asking if we've invited Mitchell's parents to our Friendsgiving as an olive branch, no way. The whole point is to spend the holiday with people who respect us. Maybe in the future we can rebuild the relationship, but right now we need this boundary. Also, Martha would probably criticize my turkey anyway, lol. Now for the second update. So it's been about 3 weeks since my last post, and a lot has happened. First of all, thank you to everyone who commented with advice and support. Seriously, the validation that I'm not crazy meant so much to me. For those who wanted to know how our Friendsgiving went instead of hosting for Mitchell's family, well, it happened, but not without a whole lot of drama leading up to it. The weeks between deciding not to host an actual Thanksgiving were intense. I figured Martha and Richard would be annoyed, but would eventually find another place to host. But no. They went on a full campaign to pressure us into changing our minds. First, it was the guilt-trippy texts from Martha about family traditions and how we were tearing the family apart. Then Richard started calling Mitchell daily, switching between acting concerned and being manipulative. Then they started getting other family members involved. Mitchell's cousins, his grandparents, even some distant relatives we barely know were suddenly texting and calling. Most of them had no idea about the photo situation and were just told we were being difficult about hosting. A few of them said we were overreacting about a few photos. Kevin was the worst though. He called Mitchell like 6 times in one day, switching between guilt tripping and making threats like, "You're going to regret choosing Sarah over family." 3 days before Thanksgiving, Martha called with what she called a compromise. She said they would still expect us to host, but she would bring some of the food, and she would bring one photo of Mitchell, not including me, to display during dinner. She presented this like she was making some huge concession. I was actually considering it for a minute because I thought maybe it was a genuine attempt to reconcile, but Mitchell immediately saw it as another manipulation tactic. He pointed out that we'd still be doing all the work of hosting, and bringing one photo of just him was actually kind of insulting to our marriage. So, we held firm and sent a group text to Richard, Martha, and Kevin, reiterating that we would not be hosting and would not be attending their family Thanksgiving either. The response was a barrage of texts and calls that we mostly ignored. Instead, we went ahead with our Friendsgiving plans. We invited my family, my parents and sister, several close friends, Mitchell's Aunt Claire, and a few of Mitchell's cousins who had reached out separately to say they understood our position. Honestly, it was amazing. Everyone brought something to contribute, so no one person had to do all the work. People actually offered to help clean up without being asked. Looking at you, Martha. The conversation was fun and relaxed without all the passive-aggressive comments I usually endure at Mitchell's family gatherings. I mean, I don't even care what Martha thinks about my cooking or hosting abilities. Okay, that's a lie. I totally care. And I spent like 3 days cleaning and preparing to make everything perfect just to prove a point that Martha will never even see. I know that's stupid. We took tons of photos throughout the day and displayed them all over our social media. Mitchell's cousin Jen even printed some out on her portable printer, and we put them up around the house right away. It felt good to create new memories with people who actually care about both of us. But then the doorbell rang during dessert. Mitchell opened the door, and there were Martha and Richard standing on our porch. I literally froze halfway to the kitchen with a stack of plates in my hand. Mitchell asked what they were doing there, and Martha said they just wanted to drop off some pie, but it was obvious they came to inspect our gathering. Richard made a snide comment about us having a party instead of family Thanksgiving. Mitchell stayed super calm and said they were celebrating with people who respect their relationship. Martha spotted our dining room full of guests and looked genuinely shocked, like she couldn't believe we actually went through with alternative plans. Then Claire appeared behind me and said hello to Martha in this super cool, polite voice. Martha's face just fell when she saw her sister there. It was clear she hadn't expected Claire to take sides. Richard started lecturing Mitchell, but Mitchell interrupted him and asked them to leave. Martha got emotional and said she didn't recognize him anymore. Mitchell told her it was because he was finally standing up for himself and me. They left after that, and everyone inside was quiet for like 30 seconds before Claire made a joke about it being more exciting than the Macy's parade, and everyone laughed. After Thanksgiving, Claire filled us in on what happened at the in-laws' dinner. Apparently, Martha and Richard had to hastily host themselves, with Martha complaining constantly about the last-minute arrangements, even though they had like 3 weeks' notice. The best part is that many family members asked where we were, and when the truth came out about the photos, Claire had actually shown evidence to several relatives. A lot of people were pretty appalled. Even Richard's brother told him it was a crappy thing to do. Oh, and Amy, Kevin's girlfriend, supposedly looked super uncomfortable the whole time and barely spoke to Martha, despite Martha's attempts to engage her. 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, we heard through mutual friends that Amy broke up with Kevin. Apparently, she told people the family drama was too much and she wasn't ready for that level of intensity. Martha is supposedly upset because she was already planning the wedding in her head after like 4 months of them dating. And of course, Kevin is blaming US for the breakup. He sent Mitchell an angry text about how our selfish drama scared Amy away. Martha and Richard finally reached out yesterday, but only to express disappointment in our choices, not to apologize or anything. Martha said we were causing division, which is so backwards I can't even. But there are some small signs of progress, I guess. Claire told us Martha has put one photo of me and Mitchell back in her house, and Martha actually called to ask if we would consider coming for Christmas dinner. Mitchell and I talked about it for a long time, and we've decided to go, but with very clear boundaries. We're going to drive separately so we can leave if we need to. We're not bringing any presents for Kevin since he's been so horrible to us, and we're going to be direct if anyone makes passive-aggressive comments. The weird thing is, our marriage feels stronger after all this. Standing together against his family's manipulation has brought us closer. Mitchell seems more confident now that he's finally stood up to his parents, and I'm proud of him for it. We've established some clear boundaries moving forward. 1, we'll attend family functions, but we'll leave immediately if disrespected. 2, all family members must treat us both with respect or face limited contact. 3, we will not host holidays unless it's fairly rotated among all family members. I never thought we'd be in this position with his family, but sometimes you need to risk rejection to gain respect. I'm cautiously optimistic about Christmas, but we're going in with our eyes open. And honestly, if it doesn't work out with his birth family, we've realized the family you choose can be more important than the family you're born into. Edit, to answer some questions, yes, we did send Martha and Richard photos from our Friendsgiving after some commenters suggested it in my last post. We sent a whole album actually. Martha's only response was, "Looks nice," which is probably the closest thing to a compliment I'll ever get from her. Edit 2. Several people are asking if I think Martha will try to punish us at Christmas. Honestly, probably. She's definitely the type to serve everyone else before me or accidentally forget my dietary preferences. I don't eat pork, and she always forgets. But we're prepared for it this time, and Mitchell has promised to call it out if it happens. Edit 3. For those suggesting we just cut contact completely, we've discussed it, but Mitchell isn't ready for that. These are still his parents, despite how awful they can be. We're trying the boundaries route first, and if that doesn't work, we'll reassess. It's easy to say, just cut them off, but much harder to actually do. Edit 4. Thanks for the awards. I'm honestly overwhelmed by the support, and to those of you dealing with similar in-law situations, you're not alone. Setting boundaries is hard but necessary. I'll update after Christmas if anything significant happens.